On this week's UBC From Here, reimagining the future of planning in the Okanagan.
There's a lot of potential here. When we look at all the bike paths and we look at people moving here and riding bikes around in the summer, there's a lot of potential here. And if we could just get people using transit, and if we could get City Council starting to think ahead about mass transit, especially some kind of train-based transit now, we've got some options.
Taking wine marketing to another level.
A lot of times, because wine is such an old craft, you don't really think about innovation, perhaps in the same way you would if you were in a more sophisticated, newer technology-based business.
Recognition for medical engineering excellence.
I'm honored to receive the Friedman Scholarship that the medical school provided students with, and it gives us an opportunity to go for 1 year to another school to gain experience, to collaborate with people, create connection, and bring all this experience and expertise back in UBC.
And embracing belongingness.
What I've found in my research is that there is actually a great sense of belongingness at UBC Okanagan.
Hi, and welcome to this week's UBC From Here. I'm Rosemary Jean Thompson. Researchers on the Okanagan campus of UBC are reaching out internationally to learn and share ideas about new approaches to urban planning here in the Okanagan.
When I first moved here in 1962, of course I didn't know what was going on then, I was only 2 years old, but Kelowna was about 15,000 people. And now you could argue, if you count West Kelowna, that we're almost 200,000 people. And that growth has been dramatic, it's been very quick, and it's been very ad hoc. There haven't been a lot of policies in place to ensure that that growth has been sustainable. I've been part of an international group of scholars who've been very interested in studying sustainability in its broader context, and in particular interested in studying the impact that recent transformations in social relations in particular spaces that have occurred through the adoption of neoliberal policies, both social and economic policies, and how they've really changed the world and had a really negative impact on sustainability.
From an overall perspective, I think the Okanagan Valley is at a point where it needs to think about its politics around affordable housing, because I think that this is the overall issue that many societies are faced with today, and Okanagan Valley is definitely one of those.
But one of the special things for me visiting the Okanagan Valley is this extremely car dependency. And it's not, as I said, it's not a big surprise, but it's still experiencing how it's actually more or less impossible doing anything without a car is one of these things that really makes an impression on me.
I think the future is always open. I mean, there are always possibilities out there. I don't think it's about looking back, but maybe it's about looking forward, and then maybe looking at some of these older ideas and see how can we play with these ideas in a new context, in this new context. And there are definitely a lot of ideas from Scandinavia that can be played with, but also in the Canadian society.
I think it's possible, but I think one of the very important things is that we can't think that it's something that we can do overnight, because we got used to and we planned our societies in a way that it's so car dependent. And the reason why I say we did now is because this is actually also how it's going on in a lot of Danish cities. I'm from Copenhagen and I do a lot of research on cycling, and Copenhagen is special in a Danish context because this is a city where a lot of people cycle. But in the rest of the country, people are also really dependent on their cars.
Kelowna, ironically, is one of the most car-dependent cities in Canada, and it's also one of has the highest bicycle use. That's about a little less than 3%, so it's easy to be high. But that there's a lot of potential here. When we look at all the bike paths and we look at people moving here and riding bikes around in the summer, there's a lot of potential here. And if we could just get people using transit, and if we could get City Council starting to think ahead about mass transit, especially some kind of train-based transit now, instead of 20 years from now, when it's going to be really expensive, we've got some options available. So I'm hopeful. I'm not optimistic.
UBC Okanagan management professor Anna Majoy is collaborating with Okanagan wineries to answer the question, what does innovation mean to them?
A lot of times, because wine is such an old craft, you don't really think about innovation, perhaps in the same way you would if you were in a more sophisticated, newer technology-based business. I think we're getting better, but we still need to innovate more as an industry, and we need to innovate more as a region.
I'm interested in the wine industry as a whole because I'm trained as an anthropologist, so I think big. And then I parcel out sections that I focus on. Initially, it was all about taste and taste culture development and so on. And that is continuing even today. But you can't look at it in isolation. You've got to look at what other things the wineries are doing as well. And one of it is to be successful through innovations. But it is not innovation in the sense of what happens in technology industries where something is completely obsolete and something totally new takes its place, and then something else takes its place, and so on. In the wine industry, it's more gradual, taking old ideas and making them into new ones that are relevant for a particular context.
Innovation for me is taking a look at what is happening in the marketplace and acting in front of it in a way. So knowing or having enough information that you know what, for example, your customer might be looking for in the future, and listening to your customer about an unfilled need or demand, and then trying to create that for them.
Innovation is not just about finding new ways, because sometimes the old ways are the innovation of today. We're rediscovering and reinterpreting things we learned.
We've done innovations in two different ways. We've looked at our products. When we purchased the business 5 years ago, we took a good hard look at the products and at the market and what wasn't being met to us in the marketplace. And one of the things that in this province doesn't happen as often as I think in other parts of the world is the whole concept of using labeling as a marketing tool. And we've done that quite successfully. We've introduced some labels that reached out directly to the people in the marketplace we wanted to reach, which were women of a certain age.
When I look at innovation in our marketing right now, we ask ourselves this question. There's 80,000 commercial brands out there in the world. How do we approach our customer in a way that is different? How do we get information to them? So innovation on a marketing side is about how do we embrace social media and the technology behind that? How do we embrace our ability to communicate electronically? And what information do people want? And we're learning that every single day now.
The notion of innovation itself is very unique and different from the traditional ways in which we understand innovation. And that's one aspect that I'm really keen on understanding from the point of view of the wineries themselves, is how they define innovation. There's a lot of other stuff going on which is in the vineyard, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's the wine making process. It's the whole picture that has to be taken into consideration.
The School of Engineering here at the Okanagan campus of UBC continues to receive recognition from around the world for its research. Recently, one of its graduate students received a prestigious award for his unique research.
My name is Hojjatullah Rezai-Nejad, and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of British Columbia, working on ATFL laboratory under the supervision of Dr. Mina Hurfar. And my project is on advancing microfluidic technology for biological application.
If I want to talk about Hoja, I like to talk about the first day I met him. I remember we had a meeting in my office and I was in the lab and I was busy with some of my students. We were trying to figure out how to move the particles in the liquid that we had. And he knocked at the door, he introduced himself and I said, just sit down, I'm going to be with you in a short moment. And then I talked to my student and he just came and started moving around the camera, working with his stuff. I was shocked. And then he said, oh, I can do this. You know, we were working on that problem for a year, and in a month, he could do it.
I'm honored to receive the Friedman Scholarship. This is a very prestigious award that the medical school provides students with, and it gives us an opportunity to go for 1 year to another school to gain experience, to collaborate with people, create connection, and bring all this experience and expertise back in UBC to promote what we have done actually, and then introduce ourselves there in their schools or in the universities.
Hoja is going to join one of the best labs in the world. Dr. Khatem Hosseini is at Harvard. And I've been trying to collaborate with this lab in the past few years when we initiated the microfluidics on this campus. Up to date, we were not that much successful. Now, Hoja, with getting this scholarship, he has the opportunity to go there and be our ambassador.
By receiving this scholarship, I will have the chance to join Harvard-MIT Division of Health and Science and Dr. Khatem Hosseini lab, which is a leading lab in this area. They're working on developing tissue engineering and they are leading experts in this field. We get this opportunity to go there and integrate our technology with their platform to promote this research and getting to hopefully making a functional tissue out of the usual tissue that we develop.
By going there and collaborating with him and his group, what we're trying to do is that to make the name of UBC in our lab and also make something useful for the community. It's going not only make names for UBC, for Hoja, for us and Khatem Hosseini and Harvard, also make something for the whole community and the world. And that is the biggest prize we can get out of this.
My name's Angela Finlay. I'm a master's student in the Faculty of Education at UBC's Okanagan campus. There is a co-relationship between plants and people. There's a relationship when you work with plants, it actually helps build a sense of belongingness as well. I spent many years teaching overseas as an English as a second language teacher. And then when I came back home, I was living in a very small town, so we didn't actually have students from my field. So basically I thought, what else can I do? And I decided to become a professional gardener for about 7 years. I realized there was a piece missing, and so I decided I need to go back to school with sort of the vision that I could combine the two fields together. So this idea of gardening and teaching, and how do those two relate? The research that I'm working on is belongingness in education. Belongingness is a fundamental need of human beings. I decided I wanted to work with students from non-English speaking backgrounds. I would ask graduate students, what do they think about belongingness, particularly on our campus at UBC Okanagan? I also, of course, wanted to link in the sustainability piece, so I asked, what is your relationship to nature? Does nature create a sense of belongingness? What I've found in my research is that there is actually a great sense of belongingness at UBC Okanagan. So I was surprised and I was actually very happy to find that out. I'd very much like that the findings get used to help improve and engage our campus with this discussion of what is belongingness, how can we foster that for our students, and thereby creating a greater sense of academic success, social success, interrelationships between students, and between faculty and students as well, because there's relationships from every direction.